threat of disaster is never pleasant.
Welcome to the Casual Preppers podcast.
These safety measures are essential.
The only place for prepping, survival, and entertainment.
This will be your source of survival instructions and information. Every member of the family must be coached in the business of survival.
Here are your hosts, Cam and Kobe.
It's a chilly one out there, buddy.
It is freaking cold.
Yeah.
Winter has finally found its way here.
It did, man. We had such a mild early winter.
I know.
It's
I was
been
like,
beautiful.
Not even going to see any snow, and I was fine with that.
Yeah, I wasn't too
But
hurt.
it found its way.
It did.
And it instantly got super cold.
Yeah.
So.
But it's toasty here in the studio.
It is nice.
Right? And we're excited because we kind of have a new thing going today.
What if we get snowed in right now?
Oh, man.
We just bust out a bunch of podcasts.
Be all right with that. It's like
awesome.
we just do like 48 hours of straight podcasts.
That'd be
Oh, man.
one episode that's 48 hours.
No, I think, yeah, we could
No
do that.
break.
I don't think I got an SD card that big, but
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. But we have a new thing going today.
Yeah, we do
Right,
have
Cam?
anything
What
going.
is it that we're doing?
So yeah, we decided, why don't we love talking about movies.
Yes.
And we love the apocalyptic scenario and preppers and stuff. So we're like, why don't we just put it together and make an apocalyptic movie hour?
That's what we're doing.
So we're going to do that today.
We're stoked.
We'll see how it goes. You might love it. You might hate it. I don't really care. We
Could
can
go
do
either
what
way.
we want. We do what we want.
Could go either way.
Could go.
Yeah.
Either way.
Uh-huh.
But I do want to talk to you about some important things.
Okay.
You know, when you're prepping, you got to think about food and water, power, protection, all of that. One thing you can't forget about is self-reliant medical care. It's a huge deal. And a lot of people, as I've seen this year, don't know how to do any of it.
Yeah, it's a
So-
lost art.
I'm going to recommend this to everybody, the Prepper's Medical Handbook. And it's written by wilderness medicine expert and survivalist William W. Forgy. He knows what he's talking about. He's an MD, and he's experienced the wilderness. Put them together, you got the Prepper's Medical Handbook.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing, this book is really nice is that it's not full of all this really confusing medical jargon. It's not like reading a textbook. He just kind of hits the stuff that you're most likely to encounter with, out in the wilderness by yourself or with your family. It's great for putting together like your own FAQ and things like that. So I highly recommend it. You should go check it out. You can get it at preppersmedicalhandbook.com or amazon.com.
Beautiful.
Go get you one.
I appreciate that, Cam.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. But I'm really excited.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Sit back and relax. Grab your popcorn.
It's the Apocalyptic Movie Hour.
Yeah, man.
Ooh, it's like a podcast within a podcast.
Yeah, it's the Inception stuff going on right now.
That got me kind of stoked, though.
I know, me
I
too.
like the little beat.
Yeah. So it's the Apocalyptic Movie Hour. We're gonna do this semi-regularly, where we break down an apocalyptic style film, and it could be brand new, it could be older.
There's some real good old ones.
There's some really good stuff. So we're gonna do this today with a movie that has kind of really been making some waves on social media for the past about month or so.
Yeah.
And that is Leave the World Behind.
Yeah.
Right?
You may or may not have seen this, so we're going to spoil it for you right now.
Spoilers, if you haven't watched this yet, there's a ton of spoilers. We're going to pretty much do the whole damn movie for you. So,
we're reenacting each part.
Yeah, I get to be Julia Roberts. I'm
Good.
pretty excited
I'm
about
GH.
Yeah. But this is a movie that people loved, people hated, people were terrified by it. There was a lot of different reactions, and it was huge, man, on TikTok and on Instagram and stuff. People were just going nuts over some of the things about this film, and it has a very prepper type plot to it. So I think it kind of makes sense for us to talk about it, right?
Yeah, I like this. The subject of it it's different from the other prepper movies that I've seen, which is kind of nice to kind of go with more modern risks that we have.
Exactly. Yeah.
But we'll talk about it. We'll get into it.
We're definitely going to talk about it. Real quick before we get into that, maybe we should play this trailer so you guys can kind of get a feeling for it and kind of remember if you've seen it.
Yeah, I think that
get you there.
would help make it stick a little more about what we're getting into.
Okay, here we go.
I went online this morning and I rented us a beautiful house out by the beach. I figured if I made the reservation and packed our bags, it would eliminate most of the reasons to say no.
Oh, this is nice. Kids look so happy.
The Wi-Fi isn't working.
so sorry to bother you, and this is our house.
This is your house.
We were driving back to the city, then something happened.
You want to stay here, but we're staying here.
We need to get them out of here.
I need to think everything's gonna be okay.
Everything is gonna be okay, isn't it?
We are seeing ongoing cyber attacks across the country.
Something is happening, and I don't trust them.
Everything I know, I have told you.
I don't believe you.
I would do anything to protect my family. What you do is your business.
Get in the car right now!
Haven't you been picking up on what's going on out there?
Whatever it is, it's happening to all of us.
I just want to know, what is the truth?
What is the truth?
What is the truth? And nobody really knows, right?
Exactly.
So that is the trailer for Leave the World Behind. So basically, this film, the basic plot is a family vacation on Long Island is interrupted by two strangers bearing news of a blackout. As the threat grows, both families must decide how best to survive the potential crisis, all while grappling with their own place in this collapsing world. Yeah.
Very much kind of goes into each character that way.
It does.
Like how they deal with it and how.
And look, man, this plot is something I love. I love this type of story. I think, we're going to get into it, but I think there's some lessons here for preppers. And
sure.
And there's some things for us to consider. Right. Yeah. So quickly about the film, this was released November 22nd of 2023 on Netflix. So really, it's an easy one to find if you want to go watch it. It's on Netflix. Directed by Sam Esmail. This is the guy that directed Mr. Robot, which is a fantastic television series. I think that was it FX? I can't remember around there. Super, super good. Main actors, Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke, Mahershala Ali, and Kevin Bacon. So it had some big actors in it. It was actually based on a book, Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. So really quickly, some critic reviews. The Metacritic score is 68. So that's basically, if you don't know Metacritic, it goes through and it averages out all of the critic scores, right? I think that's how they do it, right?
Yeah, what was I didn't see the audience rating. Did you see that?
I didn't. I actually should have looked that up. Maybe you can look it up real quick. But yeah, 68. Yes. So here's one of the top reviews. It was an 88 from the Associated Press. They say it's a story brilliantly adapted and directed by Sam Esmail, showrunner of Mr. Robot, who has made Leave the World Behind into an homage of Alfred Hitchcock, complete with the image of a man trying to outrun a crashing plane and using the master's discordant, loud music. And then Slant Magazine review was a 38. It says, in the end, Leave the World Behind is content to blandly shrug in the direction of an amorphous calamity, reaching for a profundity that it fails to achieve. So that was kind of the top and the bottom ends.
Yeah, that's kind of how reviews. It is across this. Critic review was 69% positive, 9% negative. User review was 38% positive, 42% negative.
Okay, so yeah.
21% mixed, 23% mixed on the critics. So
yeah, so it's kind of one of those films that was down the middle almost.
It was, for sure.
When you average everything out, right? It wasn't like universally loved, wasn't universally hated, but they definitely made some waves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really did. So Cam and I are going to go through and we're going to rate this as well out of 100. We're going to tell you our likes, our dislikes, and then we're going to get into other aspects of the film because there's a lot to unpack on this one for sure, right?
Yeah, there really is.
So my score out of 100 was 66. So I think I'm somewhat in line with the critics, maybe a little bit above most of the audience scores, which was interesting to me. So going through some of the things that I loved about this film or liked about it, the cinematography I thought was great, and this is probably something that some people didn't.
You pay
like.
more attention to, though. I mean,
Sure, yeah, I do.
Not a lot.
It was really interesting in it, and it was reminiscent of some of the stuff that he did in Mr. Robot, which I really, really loved. I think it was a different cinematographer, but some of the same types of things. I just felt like there was a lot of interesting camera movements throughout this, right? That sort of added to the unease of the film, sort of like disorienting. Like
it was.
You would see something and it would turn, and it was interesting, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was something that you didn't like.
I didn't like the spin.
Mm-hmm.
There were other ways. Like I totally agree with you on like the suspense was built in ways that it was shot, which I liked.
Yeah.
But the spinning drove me nuts. I was like, stop spinning.
Interesting.
But it's just a matter of what
it's
you like.
It's a matter of taste there.
But for some reason, I was like, okay, I have to like close my eyes and wait for it to pass.
It
wasn't very long that it did that. It was really short, and I understand how it worked. But
certain shots and certain things that there was one shot where it ended up on like this sideways tilt, but where you could see New York in the distance.
That was cool.
That shot I thought was
there were some
fantastic.
good ones for sure.
Yeah,
I would not rate overall the cinematography bad. Like it was pretty.
Yeah,
I hated the spinning for some reason.
Sure.
It's like, whoa, that's weird.
And for me, it kind of added to that unease and
Confusion.
the disorienting, the
Does make
confusion for me a bit. But they also did lean into like some really symmetrical type shots, which I love too. And there was a lot of those like long, slow zooms and push-ins. Again, very Hitchcocky, and like they were talking about Hitchcock, very much that way, as well as the soundtrack. The soundtrack
was good.
Was very Hitchcocky, very like M. Night Shyamalan almost, with kind of that just eerie, kind of creepy. Like it felt like a Shyamalan movie from time to time.
It did kind of. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I definitely got that. I thought Kevin Bacon, I thought Ethan Hawke were fantastic.
They were.
Both of those guys were very, very good. And Kevin Bacon was only in this for just a short period.
Yeah.
But I thought he was good.
He's good.
I thought Ethan Hawke was good. Everybody else was just okay. Some of them I didn't love. Didn't love the performances.
I didn't either. I don't know. And this might be just my feeling with Netflix. I feel like, I don't know what it is with Netflix's production or like the acting. I'm like, some amazing actors and actresses, but for some reason, sometimes they just seem dull or they drive you nuts. I don't know what it is.
And it could have been the writing a
the
little bit.
The writing for Julia Roberts was
great,
in particular to make her annoying, but she was extremely annoying.
Oh, she was, yeah.
I couldn't even stand to listen to her.
Yeah, you definitely wanted to slap her from time to time.
And you understand, like the movie tells you kind of why.
Yeah, it makes sense, right?
But you're like, ugh, I couldn't even stand it.
I did love the overall, the feel, the uneasy feeling, the tension. I thought it was really good. Obviously, the plot is something that speaks to me. I love this type of thing. I really love the sort of Illuminati references. That's cool.
I don't know why that stuff's way cool.
I don't know why it's cool too, but I freaking loved it. And there was a few kind of apocalyptic moments, like when they were attempting to leave on the highway and they could hear the sirens in the background. I'm like, oh, right before the Tesla scene.
Yeah, that's right.
You can hear
what
those.
is that? It's like super faint, huh?
Yeah. And it's like, oh, I freaking love that. So
it wasn't the highway just like down across like all the brush and trees like down from them. It's like a disaster.
Yep. So anyways, those were the things that I liked. What were your kind of, or what did you rate it?
Yeah,
what were your likes?
I gave it a 55. Okay. Like, I think what pushed me above, like, I mean, typical fence rider right there.
Yeah.
50%. I gave it the extra 5 points just because it was a prepper, like an apocalyptic movie. But I don't know. I like movies. It sucks because like the first time you watch a movie, it does depend a lot on the mood you're in. And so
yes, it really
this
does.
one I was in kind of, I wasn't, it took me a minute to get into this movie.
And full disclosure, I watched it twice.
Yeah.
So I watched it right when it came out.
This idea had come up and you're like, I'm going to do it again.
I better watch it again. And so I think I probably got a little bit more out of it because I was expecting it and I'd read a few things.
Yeah.
So anyways.
How excited were you to watch it again?
I don't think I was like super excited other than the fact that we were doing this. So I was kind of excited.
You were looking at it different, right?
I was looking at it differently. I was kind of excited to unpack some of the other stuff.
And the first time I watched it, I had this podcast in mind.
Yeah.
So I was looking at it a little more like assignment like.
Yeah, exactly.
So it does make it a little different. But the thing I liked about it was I feel like I love these just because they're eye openers. Like I'm hopeful that people took away a message of like, man, a cyber attack could just like ruin our lives, and like, am I prepared? You never know. People be like, "Well, this is scary," and doesn't change anything.
Exactly.
I do like that it's kind of a more unique take on, like almost like that grid down scenario where it's a cyber attack and not just like an EMP, because they're very similar in what they would do. But I like that it left a ton of confusion.
Yeah.
I like that you didn't even know what was going on. Like, who's attacking
really
what, and the government's not able to like, relay anything back to the people. And
it definitely was a unique. It wasn't
I like that lack of information.
Yeah, it wasn't a straight prepper movie because it never got to like, oh, everybody's got guns and they're shooting.
It wasn't
everybody.
like 5 years later.
Yeah, exactly. Which I love.
Yeah.
Right. I love that. A different look at it. It's not like straight to 5 years later.
We always like the first part,
like Book of Eli, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I did really like that, and you never even got to the next level.
No.
Yeah.
So it leaves you kind of thinking like, where was it going? What was happening?
This is always my favorite piece of apocalyptic stories. This is always it.
It's always like the most like, what are people going to do and how are they reacting to the
in that first few days?
Yeah.
That's what I love. I hate when it's like, okay, now we're 6 years later, everybody's carrying around Bibles and water, and chickens are.
I know it's so
just
true.
like I don't. That's not my favorite. part.
Come to think of it, was there any jet flyovers ever in it?
There was
super
a drone.
There was a drone,
but I don't know.
But there was no like,
I don't think
that
there
very
was.
classic.
No,
I don't remember.
I think there were like some helicopters in the distance on the skyline. when they
in the end.
Yeah, but I don't think. Yeah,
there's no jet
never had that.
flyovers.
That's unfortunate because that is one of my favorite tropes
I was
of these.
Thinking,
types
I'm
of
like,
films.
that's not in there.
Yeah.
The thing I like, and like I was mentioning, I really liked that it showed like the desperation and helplessness of someone.
Yeah.
Like Ethan Hawke, he did an awesome job of just portraying like, I don't know what to do at all.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my gosh,
and that's how most people would be.
We're going to talk about that quite a bit moving forward because, I think there's a representation of a big swath of people in the United States.
I think they did a good job with that.
Yeah.
The tech dependence, obviously, it's just like you don't realize you don't have the ability to look up stuff. And like a couple of times that she's like, well, it's like there's no Wi-Fi. There's no way to like look or see. Maybe in even that point where she got the text, but she's like, I saw these, but they're gone now, and I don't know what that was all about.
For sure.
So you're believing somebody else's, just adds to the confusion. The other thing is I liked that the details were left open to the viewer. It's just kind of like they never explained certain things, like the sound. Like, what was that? Like, some people are saying it was like supersonic jets and things like that, and other were like it was an actual weapon, and I liked that. And I always love movies that use sound as like an interrupter or like something that just causes chaos and
where sound
confusion.
Design is prevalent. Yeah,
that one was good because that was pretty creepy.
It was, yeah.
And then obviously it unlocked a new fear for me that I've never thought about, like the Airbnb thing.
Yeah, man.
It's just like we talked about like staying in hotels and stuff, but like Airbnb is someone else's home that they may want back. Like that was a whole different thing for me.
It's a unique take on an SHTF situation.
Yeah.
Like how do you
So I did like
navigate it?
that. That was new. I hadn't seen anything like that or thought of anything like that. And then obviously the end, the dream bunker, man.
Oh yeah.
It was incredible.
It was incredible.
So clean, and it had like, I don't even know what communication system it was using. It was like,
it was insane.
It was so cool.
Yeah, it was super cool.
So they showed some cool stuff. So
for sure. And when I go to the things I didn't like, and I hated the whole animals trying to warn us.
I did too,
thing.
man.
And I understand it.
I still need,
like there's imagery, and it's symbolic of a bunch of different things, but it never felt believable to me.
It didn't look great either.
And the CGI just took me out of the story.
So
I hated it.
Same with me.
Like,
that
especially
big old gray one.
Gosh, I hated it.
Me too.
I'm like, you would have been better off showing them in the distance and used like real
when she
gear
was
or
looking at
something.
them and more of them showing up, that was good enough.
That was fine, yeah.
But when they're like, I thought they were going to start talking at one point.
Like, good Lord, this feels like a Disney movie or something for a second. You know what what I mean?
I do.
I did not like that at
Yeah.
all.
I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, I didn't love the racial aspects, the themes that threw out. I get it, and I know that could.
I know it still exists, right?
Yeah, I just felt like it was too in your face. It could have been subtler, and it would have been more effective for me. Anyways, you know what I mean. The pacing was a little weird from time to time. It got
was
slow.
Weird. It was weird. I agree.
Here and there. And I kind of get, because there was a lot of dialogue, but it just, the pacing wasn't great. And again, the dialogue was okay. The writing was all right. There were moments that I thought were fantastic. And the moments that I just hated, like even that first little piece with Julia Roberts when they're in their apartment in New York, I just thought, like, it sounded so weird to me. Like the way she was talking, I didn't like it.
Yeah, I agree.
But then when we got to see Ethan Hawke in the end, and he's just like desperate, he doesn't know what to do, he needs medicine for his son. That part was fantastic.
Yeah.
His little speech there.
Yeah, where he's
so
just
good.
like panicking, but like, I want to help, but I don't know how.
Yeah,
like
that was great.
He was good.
So anyways, that were the things I didn't like.
Yeah. I didn't really like, I understand it's kind of, I don't know. I felt like it was a confusing movie where it couldn't decide if it was kind of more horror or dramatic. And I know that's kind of the intention, but like,
to me, it was more thriller, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of in the middle.
Like it all of a sudden would just go like more of a horror movie for a moment. And then it would come out of it. And I was just like, I felt like it couldn't make up its mind a little. Sure. Like it's almost like they couldn't figure that out. Mm-hmm. Not that I didn't like one or the other. It's just the two together. It was like it was trying to be dramatic and thriller, and then But that part I didn't like. I didn't like the spinning effect of the camera, and then the dramatization, like the Hollywood stuff about it. Like some of it was so dumb that I'm just like, you could tell that they were just trying too hard to make it more intense. Like when the Tesla car thing was kind of cool until she turns around and I'm like, just pull off the road.
Yeah,
like,
I know, yeah.
You idiot.
Yeah.
She's like,
we're going to go ahead.
It's like, okay, they got to make this like intense.
Yeah.
It didn't make it good for me at all. It's just like it was enough to have him like coming at him, like get out of the road.
Yeah.
And then maybe just figure out, but it's like, let's go head on with him for a moment.
Yep.
I'm like, just give me a break.
I agree.
There's a few of those. The other thing too, like when he like looks at the watch, like I liked that when he went down to the ocean and he like finds that watch and pulls it up and it's an arm. I was like, how the hell did you not see all the like plane crash? And
they almost like should have had that around a corner or something and then walked, because it did feel like, whoa, I see something shiny on the ground. I can't see anything else.
And then the body's above the ground.
Yeah.
I was like,
know. It doesn't make any sense.
I just thought it was like, it's weird that they didn't put much time into that.
There was like
part.
a lady sitting there in an airplane chair, like 30 yards from him. She was sitting
and then
upright.
just to the right is like half the fuselage.
Exactly.
I was like, I don't know.
I thought that was
so it was just kind of overlooked. Some of those parts that were supposed to be dramatic, like killed it right after. You're like, oh well,
yeah.
Like it's not even something you like. Oh, I didn't even catch that. It's like that was pretty obviously not thought out.
Yeah.
And there was just pieces like that. Another thing was this is both me and my wife's biggest pet peeve about it. When he's pulling his teeth out, we're like, why did you get rid of that one snaggle tooth?
I know.
He left one tooth that's just like right in the front. And I was like, I don't even know why you're pulling them all out. Like
on the
one
fourth
after
tooth,
another.
On the fourth tooth, like just stop.
Yeah.
See
and
if
at
you can keep 'em.
at least clean that front one up because he's like one snaggle tooth.
Did he end up leaving it? I couldn't tell because he didn't open his mouth.
I should have put that actually in the part that I liked.
That's what you liked, yeah.
Yeah, he left it. He just has one snaggle tooth there.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
And then obviously that animal stuff was really bad.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't.
Like I know what they were trying, like reading about like how they were using it as like people become less controlled in the animals. But I was like, it's done so bad.
Yeah, I didn't love it. That's definitely wasn't something I loved. But what I do love is Off the Grid Surplus. Their mission is to inspire greater connection through adventure. They do that by creating extremely functional and everyday wearable products for a great price to take you off the grid. How do they do it? Well, they simplify your clothing options so that you only need one piece of clothing instead of 3 or 4. They combine the best features from outdoor, workwear, and tactical into one everyday wearable package.
Did you change that to package?
I did not.
I thought it used to just say one wearable.
No, that's the same. It's the same.
I still like that onesie.
Check out their site, offthegridsurplus.com. Get an extra 15% off with our code CasualPreppers15. That is Off the Grid Surplus. Go get you some good stuff.
good stuff for all times of the year.
Exactly. So this film has a lot of conspiracies around it.
Yeah.
A lot. Like more than any of his films.
Some of them I was like, I can see that being like, I even thought about it during it. Other ones I was like, you're trying to dig up some.
See, but
you
I
can.
thought that too. But when I actually watched a few interviews with the director, and a lot of it was
started to come
deliberate.
up more.
It
really
was deliberate.
That's cool though. That adds to the confusion.
It does. It definitely does. So I agree.
Yeah. So one of the biggest ones, and this one's big for me, is like the Obamas were involved in direct where they were
executive producers.
Executive producers. That's right. And so I guess they have their own production where they do so. Yeah. Supposedly they came on after the script was done and kind of added to like character development and cinematography ideas and stuff like that. But a lot of people are like ex-president that had a lot of inside and details that none of us will ever know, or maybe part of that big one world government type of thing. It just makes you think like, what did they know? Yeah. And is this, them kind of helping tell us of like what they have studied and been told or shown and added it to the movie? Like, I found that pretty interesting and kind of a little creepy knowing an ex-president of the United States that knows all these secrets added to a movie about cyber attacks and the fall of, civilization and stuff in our country.
Yeah, and so apparently Barack has some sort of a book club, and this book was one of his picks.
Oh, is that what it was?
A few years ago. So he was pretty.
I think I did read that.
He understood it pretty well, and then then somehow they got brought on as executive producers. It does feel weird.
It does feel weird.
Any way you look at it, it feels weird. And then that moves into this next one. Is predictive programming, and we did an entire episode basically.
Yeah, and I always like that.
Yeah.
It is super interesting.
Leave the World Behind has been accused of using predictive programming. It's basically a conspiracy theory claiming that the government, the Illuminati, or the elites are using mass media as a method of mind control, sending out hidden messages to brainwash viewers and to make us more accepting of planned events in the future. So, the Obamas are part of it. Is this predictive programming? Are they softening us up for something that might be happening in the future?
But it's almost like, why would they even soften you up? It doesn't make sense.
Makes no sense, right? But it is interesting to consider. Many believe shows like The Simpsons are a prime example of predictive programming. Yeah. We did an entire episode where we talked a ton about The Simpsons.
That one was interesting, though. I liked all that stuff.
The theory has taken a life of its own online, with one Twitter user writing, "Leave the World Behind, a new Netflix film produced by the Obamas, is straight out of the globalist playbook. Predictive programming, fear-mongering, and anti-white sentiment. In short, they're telling us what they have in store for us next." Another one said, "A new Netflix film called Leave the World Behind, which was produced by Barack and Michelle Obama, is a blatant display of predictive programming. The movie shows a cyber attack causing a major blackout in the United States." A third one said, "The new movie Leave the World Behind, produced by the Obamas, sees a classic predictive programming, laying out a future narrative that they want us to believe, packed with code words and cabal notions. It offers a glimpse into what they have planned for us." So anyways, obviously the predictive programming side of it has been heightened because of the Obamas' involvement.
Makes sense, yeah. It's like they know a lot more about all of this and they're wanting to get that message out.
But I mean, the funny thing is like how many times have you and I or preppers thought or talked about a scenario just like this, right? It's not like it's something new. Yeah. But it is
new to a lot of people that have never. They're like, oh, that can happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is a good thing, though.
Yep.
So at one point in the movie, Marshala Ali, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but George is the character in it. He talks about, so he has like these connections and he deals with a lot of really rich clients. Money. I guess he works in stocks and stuff. Is that kind of like some financial
of some sort?
But he knows all these super powerful rich people, and he talks about one of them in particular being part of this or knows of this evil cabal, which is that powerful one government.
It feels like the
Illuminati.
New World Order or Illuminati, like really.
So he brings that in and talks about it, and I thought that part was cool. I actually liked that part. And he said how this guy had warned him at one point. He's like, "Good luck," and he just disappears before all this happens.
Right.
And so he's like, I don't know if he's part of it, or if he. And at one point they talk about how sometimes maybe the rich just are hoping to have, or maybe I read about it. It's just like maybe if anything they're not part of it, but the best they can hope for is having just a heads up in time for something like this because of their connections.
And it feels like that's the case these days. It
does.
feels like Zuck and
I know
Peter
It's
Thiel
like,
and those guys. Is like,
what do they know with their
s-
connections?
Yeah, it's like, well, we're gonna get a heads up because I got to get to New Zealand or I got to get to Hawaii, right?
Because they're part of that 1% of all the greatest wealth in the world. It's like they do have probably these connections
for sure. Yeah.
And so that's kind of what the movie goes into. He talks about this evil cabal, and that's kind of like the takeover, and it goes along with a controlling group that that's gone through a lot of different names and things like that. The Jewish bankers in case of Nazis, Freemasons, the Illuminati, reptilian lizard people, democratic pedophiles.
Oh yeah,
in case of Quanon, and anyways, so yeah. They all like you never really know if it's a combination of like one world, like a Illuminati doing this, if it's the US government maybe doing this, if it's a combination of several countries that can't stand us that are actually putting this together to take us out. Like you never really know. And I kind of like that feeling of just you never know. And I don't think if something were to happen like this, I think the confusion would be
definitely
huge.
would be.
Like you wouldn't know.
And that was actually something that
And
a
there'd
lot
be
of
a huge conspiracy, just like we all.
A lot of people hated that aspect of the film. That
I liked
they never got the explanation, and then that it ended the way that it did. Right? I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like the fact that I never knew. It was more just like
I almost would have been dumb to let you know that it was this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I just like the fact that it kept it small and it kept it. Like, what do these people do? How do they, like, just like these few people, these two little families or three,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Like, how do they react? So that's what I kind of liked. There were a lot of, like, interesting subliminal messages throughout this film. This is something I actually kind of like when directors and filmmakers add these things that aren't apparent to most people, especially, like, on a first watch.
I think this movie was, like,
there's a lot of it.
Like, ton of it, right?
Yeah. So one of the things that people have noticed is the paintings. In between the strange events, the looming apocalypse, and hidden messages, a recurring theme is the changing paintings in the parents' bedroom of the family rental home. I don't know if you noticed
notice that.
But within Amanda and Clay's rental home, large prints are displayed on the walls. One is spotted in the living room featuring patches of black and white on a background. Another is the bedroom illustrating an ocean below the gray sky. I don't know if I did notice that one the very first time. But they're hard to miss, but observant viewers have noticed subtle changes occurring during the course of the movie of these paintings, which I thought was kind of cool.
That.
As the storyline darkens and a cyber attack event unfolds, viewers have noticed the paintings in the home changing, subtly foreshadowing eerie events.
The darkness, the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I didn't notice that.
In the bedroom, the ocean painting changes with the horizon moving further up. So basically, the sea gets choppier and the waves get higher as things go. And there's that other painting. I think it's in the living room. I don't know, but it gets more like almost blurred and glitchy throughout, which is really interesting. So those are just kind of like some subtle things that were behind the scenes. The ongoing theme of the daughter Rose watching the TV show Friends, that's like a huge aspect of this, right? As the apocalypse happens, there's zero internet. Rose is unable to finish the show. She got to the very last episode. She's like obsessed with it. She like wants to know what's going to happen, right? But at the end of the movie, Rose finds a neighbor's bunker and finally comes across her saving grace. Just before the film credits roll, she notices a DVD copy of the final season of Friends and proceeds to watch it. And that's how the movie ends. And people are pissed about this ending. People hated it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was, I don't know. I didn't hate it.
I didn't
think it was fantastic.
I didn't feel like it was bad or good.
Yeah, I didn't hate it.
That's all right. The one part I wanted to know is, did she shut the door behind her?
I know. Yeah, I thought about that too. Like, does everybody die outside?
I was kind of thinking
lives?
Maybe they would show up wanting to get in, and she's down there watching the show. That's how I thought it was going to end.
Yeah.
So there was I was reading some forums, and man, it was like, it's funny because you could see the different generations just going back and forth on Reddit.
Yeah.
They were like, some of them were like, no, she was the smart one, and it shows that like modern day, like these kids like are smarter than we think, and they're more connected, and others were like, no, she was an idiot. Like she was so like wanted to see the end of that so bad that there was nothing else that she could think about. I'm getting emotional about this, but it was just funny because it was like, no, she was the smart one, and she went, and others were like, no, she was just an idiot. Like that she was just so distracted by it.
Right.
That,
Well,
that was the life that that was the focus that she had.
And I think that it really it says something about modern society, because I do think that this happens really frequently for people. They use things like TV shows as an escape from the insane crap that's going on around them, right?
Yep.
And I think that's what I think
Where
that
she
was
wanted
the
more,
message.
even just them finishing it. It's like
it's escapism. It's like I can go into this and I don't have to worry about all the insane crap that's happening around. And I do that. A lot of people do.
We all do that,
right? I think we all do it. I mean, watching this movie is just that thing for a lot of people, right? Like it's an escape from, because the world is nuts. And so I thought it was interesting. I liked it. It wasn't something that made me mad. You know what I mean?
didn't mind it either.
Yeah. Anyways, the writer and director of the movie, Sam Esmail, commented on the movie's ending saying, "To me, it represents pure escapism." So it's exactly what he's saying. In moments of crisis, when we've lost sight of our common humanity, when we feel isolated, we do want to escape to comfort.
Most definitely.
You know what I mean?
Everybody, yeah.
And for her, her journey wouldn't be complete until she watched the final episode of her favorite show. And that's basically what we saw, is that escapism was finally what people, what ended the film.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, And then there's a lot of people are saying like, the words, the lyrics to the theme song of Friends like makes a lot of sense and stuff, So I don't know. I thought it was interesting. And then we go to the deer and the technology aspects of this. I think the story it's a commentary on our over reliance on technology, right? So it's like it's the failure of the technology that brings about the end of society in this film, right? Over time, the deer become less scared, more aggressive, and the humans become more and more helpless. They don't know what's going on, and it kind of reinforces that idea that society is collapsing and nature is starting to take over again. Right?
Yeah, I know that was the point they were getting, but it just didn't look good.
Totally get it, but I just hated the way it looked and the way it felt in the film. Some people are even saying there were satanic messages.
Oh yeah,
in the
and
film.
that's exactly what what I was going to mention. So there's even a scene of showing the actors' names.
Yeah,
and it lines up and it says Baal or basically it kind of goes back to that. And I think you had some stuff on that too, the satanic messages of did you say where it was showing, where it was at?
Yeah.
Like the 666 stuff?
Yep, yeah. I don't know if you can see, but it's right above your Baal thing there.
Yeah, there it is.
The opening scene where Ethan Hawke is in bed, there are 3 6s in the shot.
Yeah.
So from left to right, there's a 6 on the mug,
Yeah.
and the big hand of the clock is pointed towards the 6, and then on the right, there is a number 6 on another clock. So it's 6.
And the 6 on the other clock is the one that kind of makes it look like it was kind of set up.
It does look that way, huh?
But yeah, their names also will line up and spell it out. And
Yes.
so it kind of goes back to like biblical, like the Satan, Beelzebub, demons and the devil that are all behind this, like this evil plot to take down, the greatest nation, America.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot of little hints at this through the movie. And those were two, the opening credits and during the opening scenes and stuff like that. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's like sometimes I think people are trying a little too hard. I mean, you can make things line up, but at the same time, some of the scenes when you look at them like that one, it does
Feels
look
weird.
like there was some intention there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah, that dark, that it does feel like there's something evil behind it all.
Sure.
And you don't know if it's our own governor or whatever. That kind of goes along with that of being like, this is the end, and it was predicted, and it's biblical and stuff like that.
Yeah, man. Another aspect to it is the sickness that the son
Yeah, that was weird.
comes down with, right?
Yeah.
His teeth start, like, that is like, I used to have this dream all the time where my teeth
I know.
fell out.
So I thought it was a
hated
dream in the movie
Uh-huh.
that he was having this dream, and then I was like,
It's real.
"Don't wank off in bed, buddy."
Yeah,
that's
what
what
happens.
why your teeth fell out.
Yeah, Jesus saw that. Teeth start to fall out, man. But yeah, his teeth start to fall. He starts to vomit up blood. Obviously, it's concerning for the people in the film. So, and he explains that he was bitten by a bug in the woods, and that part was weird to me too. And then GH,
It was like the slimiest bug
Yeah,
ever
and
too.
I was
I was like, "What?"
this is disgusting.
I know.
man. And the guy GH suggests that it maybe it's Lyme disease, right?
Yeah, which
Because-
doesn't. I mean,
Yeah. It's real.
It's a very confusing sickness anyway.
Yes.
Of different people are affected in different ways. But I was like, your teeth all fall out like within 24 hours, and I was like, maybe it's like a super like biological, like it's been developed and released. That's what I was thinking.
And so that could definitely be a piece of it, or it goes back to the noise that's throughout. Right? Is that a sound weapon? That they talked about. That's like a special aircraft that's doing it, and that's what it said in the book. Is advanced planes flying by that only the government knows are in existence. The loud noise is most likely the reason why Archie's teeth fell out in the movie and in the book. But also,
I was saying it was like maybe even concentrated radioactive.
Yeah.
That
Havana syndrome.
Yeah, radioactive stuff like creeps me out because you would never know.
No,
you would just all of a
would
sudden
not.
become sick, start throwing up, and like
oh gosh,
teeth fall out.
No, thank you.
But I was like, that was pretty disturbing to me because I didn't the lime thing. I was like, I don't know about that, but the sound and the whatever that concentrated weapon was kind of freaky to me. Is like, what is that, or what could that be?
And Kevin Bacon talks about it at one point. He says,
he's the one that was kind of explaining it.
There's an event in Cuba involving microwave weapons where radiation was beamed out through the sound, caused some people to lose their teeth, and that's like a real thing. That's the Havana syndrome.
We talked about that, or we showed a little piece of it in that sound episode.
Yep, that's a real thing.
Yeah. There's a lot around that of like the different side effects that the ambassadors and stuff experienced.
Yep.
It was just really confusing.
This I actually kind of liked that.
It's
That they
crickets,
used
though.
something that was weird, but real.
Yeah.
So, people say the meaning of his illness directly ties into Leave the World Behind's themes of fear, panic, uncertainty, danger. What is this? And there's nothing more panicky than one of your kids being sick like that and not knowing what to do.
Yeah, you would do anything. And so
that's that theme really hit home with me because I can't imagine if it was one of my kids, their teeth are falling out, they're vomiting blood. Like I'm going to do anything to try and figure out what to do, but you're helpless because you're in that situation where you
don't
can't
even
just
know.
go. You can't go to urgent care, right? Like you can't do it.
That would be the thing to walk in first in urgent care. My
Yeah.
kid's teeth all fell out. I've been throwing up blood. I'd be like, oh,
Exactly. So I thought that was an interesting piece.
I do want to know what pill he gave him. Because I'm like,
I know.
what would
That's
even
something
apply
too.
to that? You
Like,
just shooting some antibiotics?
Guarantee
guessing
it's
that's
just antibiotics.
I'm sure
Like,
it is too.
I thought the same thing, and I think I put that down there somewhere. Like, what were those pills?
Yeah, I was like, what are pills going to do? Teeth aren't going to grow back.
Yeah,
And
like,
he's
I
not-
don't. I
you don't even know
assume-
what you're treating, so you just assume,
assume-
it's doxy for Lyme disease.
Exactly.
That's the only thing I could think of.
I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, I wonder what that is. It's just ibuprofen or something? Big blue ibuprofen pills?
So there's a combination ibuprofen that is a big blue. It's
really?
800 with Pepsid in it. And I was like, that looks like it's probably what it is.
Oh, that sounds
He's
like
like
a great
selling
pill.
them like this. It's an amazing pill. I
That
love
sounds awesome.
it. But yeah, and on to that, like that was the other thing is just the combination of enemies of not knowing who it is. Is it our own government? Is it the Illuminati type group all coming together to kind of wipe it out? Which doesn't really make any sense. It's like
Who knows?
Most of the people with all that money are getting it from us. It's like, why would they wipe out those that are making money for them?
Yeah, unless they just got to a point where they're like,
Yeah.
you got enough.
Yeah.
We hit
But
the magic number.
I thought that was kind of cool. I actually liked the little pamphlet thing.
I
And
did
I was
too.
like, oh, that's cool. It's showing like what the enemy is. And then he's
Yeah.
like, no, he had another
Yeah.
that had received some that were Korean.
And that I thought that scene was actually kind of cool because
that scene was cool.
Ethan Hawke is like, oh crap, is this like some sort of a poison gas?
That's what I thought.
You couldn't tell.
I thought it was a spray.
Yeah, that's
And I
what it
was
looked like.
You're going to see that like
Yeah.
Hispanic lady just like collapse or something.
Yep.
But then it's like, wait, it's like
Yeah.
papers.
I thought it was a great scene, actually.
I actually really
when it
liked
come down
that
to it.
scene. And I think we'll talk about that part about him leaving that
Yeah.
lady. Because it's like, what do you do?
That's a tough one, right?
And the other thing, I mean, there was a lot of discussion in different forums about like the shirts, how they like had a message behind them. Like the little girl had an Obey shirt, or no, she had the NASA shirt,
NASA
and
shirt.
he had an Obey shirt. So it was like Obey NASA,
NASA.
and then NASA, if you put it together, it's just missing the T, which makes Satan. So it's Obey Satan, and like it got like really convoluted about what those shirts all meant, and some of them were just from the other thing I'd read is just kind of like portrays what the character type is,
And I did see an interview, and
that
he
makes
said
more sense.
the shirts were all picked very purposefully.
It's so crazy what goes into those that like it's probably like a relief as a director to be like, oh, people picked up on that. That's good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, and then there's a bunch of Easter eggs throughout this film too. At one point in the first like 20 minutes, Clay and Amanda, so that's Ethan Hawke and what's her name? Pretty Woman. Anyways,
Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts. They're playing Jenga, right? You got to remove the wood block from the tower until inevitably collapses.
Yeah.
And so they're like, maybe that's a foreshadowing of society collapsing in the movie. And later on, when
We
the
are
characters-
Jenga. We're
I know.
Jenga.
When the characters witness the announcement of a national emergency on television, the tower at last collapses and the symbolic representation of the danger. Anyways, that was like sort of like a little bit of an Easter egg. And then they talk about more of the escapism and the media obsession, right? Like when Rose, the daughter, attempts to explain her fears to her mother. We're talking about that episode of The West Wing. I don't know if you remember that, right?
Mm-hmm.
She tells the story of a man in emergency waiting for God to save him, that kind of thing. Anyways, it's that juxtaposition between Rose living through a real life disaster and utilizing the lessons she learned from TV.
Yeah.
In this media obsessed society. It's kind of interesting.
It is interesting because it's like in some ways it does help us prepare for certain things, and in other ways it makes us think in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So it's like, or the
It
predictive
is, yep.
program and stuff.
Donnie Darko was mentioned. The daughter of GH that they're staying in, right, describes Rose as a little girl who keeps staring into the woods like Donnie Darko. So that's a reference to the 2001 film with Jake Gyllenhaal.
I didn't ever see that. What was that one about?
It's fantastic. It's a crazy, weird science fiction. Like
Really? I didn't know about that one.
It's science fiction, but it's kind of like a psychological thriller. Really weird. But in the film, Donnie Darko has premonitions about an impending disaster. So it's really similar to like Ruth.
I'd probably
kind of
like
seeing
that.
What's
I
going
didn't even
on.
know about it.
Yeah, it was like Jake Gyllenhaal's one of his first breakout type films. It's really weird. It's super weird, but it really is pretty good. Mr. Robot. So obviously it's directed by Sam Esmail, and he's the guy who directed Mr. Robot. So
You could definitely see that in a lot of the little
definitely
scenes.
can. The first illusion comes when Danny, the Doomsday Prepper guy, played by Kevin Bacon, he's loading stuff in his truck. And one of my favorite scenes, and he has these yellow buckets on there. They look like food, and it says E Corp. And
Yeah,
that
I
is
didn't
the
notice that
evil
until
corporation
we were looking at these.
for Mr. Robot. I thought that's really cool. And then also Amanda's laptop bears the E Corp label as well, which is really cool. And she's also reading Beach Towel. It's a fictitious novel written by Mr. Robot, the character Irving. In
Smart.
this thing.
Put it all in there.
I know. I thought it was
That's
really,
what he
really
does.
cool. Anyways, and then there was the whole Black history, the slavery stuff that was all over this, which I said just felt like too much. But the car radio is briefly set to 1619. That's the reference to the Nicole Hannah Jones 1619 project. And then it's and that's like, maybe it implies that these events are retribution for something in the past, right? Maybe which is slavery. The Airbnb is located in the fictional hamlet of Point Comfort, New York. And Point Comfort, Virginia is identified as a location where in 1619-20 some odd African captives were brought, initiating the transatlantic slave trade. And then the last one is the big ship, the cargo ship that comes ashore. It was called the White Lion. And in 1619, the White Lion slave ship landed at Point Comfort.
Really?
Yeah. So there was a whole bunch of different...
I didn't know it was all tied to it.
There's a lot of ties back to slavery there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no.
Did you know you can protect yourself from all of this, though?
How did you do that? Tell me.
You get Surfshark.
Oh, okay.
The whole world would have been saved in this movie.
I know.
So, yeah, a lot of us use the internet, right? All the time.
I did today.
Pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
So when you're shopping and all that stuff, you definitely want to go onto the internet nowadays safely.
Sure.
And Surfshark can allow you to do so more safe than just, full on naked browsing. That's what I do.
Yeah, raw dogging that browsing.
So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you don't want to go naked online. You want to have some protection.
Heck no.
Surfshark VPN can give you that protection. They allow you to go online with you'll connect your device or computer to one of their servers, and then it can't be traced all the way back to you as easily. So, yeah, Surfshark is a super easy way to use a VPN. Their app is really easy to use. And if you just like want to try it out, they give you a 30-day money back guarantee, which I find is super nice because some people just don't even know how to use it and what it works and how hard it is to make it work. You think you have to plug in all this stuff to the router, but you don't. And they even have more service that can protect you from viruses and different scams. And also they can track your email to make sure if the password is compromised, they will alert you and you can change it. Pretty cool stuff.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, you can go to surfshark.deals/casual preppers and it'll give you 83% off. So you get 24 months plus they throw in an extra 3 months, 27 months for less than $60. I've purchased this myself twice because, you know, when you're traveling and stuff like that too, going on public Wi-Fi, pretty vulnerable. So you definitely want to use something like Surfshark because it's the easiest, it's the bestest, and the greatest.
I like that.
So yeah, check it out.
I like that. Cam, so let's talk about a few things here, like some prepper pickups, some lessons from this, and then also just some moments that I liked as a prepper throughout this film.
You have to look at it that way, right?
Yeah,
that's what we do.
Sure. So, like, again, seeing Kevin Bacon loading up that food and water in his truck as a prepper, I love that imagery.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
I think that was one thing I did mention that I mean, you always have to make the prepper stand out a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I hate that they portray him like he's kind of the turd that like wasn't wanting to give him anything. Yeah. Has a shotgun and they're, you know, pointed at him and stuff like that.
But again, about that, I feel like he's the only one that's considered any of this, and they're kind of at his mercy now, right? So, yeah, it's negative, but it's also a positive because he's the only guy that has any information. GH has some information too, but he's the guy that's ready, and he's like, and they're like, look, we're relying on you. You're the only guy that's ready for this. So, I did like that piece of it. I just felt like the situational awareness for the adults in this film is like
zero.
It's zero.
It's terrible.
It's horrible. Like really, it's like
I feel like they would. I feel maybe. I mean, it's probably true for a lot, but I feel like there'd be a little more concern going on.
Yeah.
Oh, that big freaking oil liner just beached itself.
I'm eating my sandwich. Don't bother me. Right?
That part I was like, it's almost like it came too early.
Yeah.
Like I understand, but I was like, come on, you would react a bit more or talk more about it or talk to like.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing.
They didn't even share the information with
that's the next thing I said was like, after that happened, they're in the car driving home and she's like, oh, there's a Starbucks.
I didn't even notice
Let's go to Starbucks. You know what I mean? It's just like directly. It's just like, I got to get my latte or whatever, you know? So I thought that was really interesting. Get right back to buying some stuff, a familiar thing. It's just interesting. It's just really insane how clueless they all were without phones and internet. Like that is a message that a lot of people, I hope, understand.
Yeah.
How clueless all of us are mostly when we lose this stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking about even when I had a trip to like a conference in LA, if I didn't have my phone to navigate, I was screwed, man.
How are you going to get there?
And I try to like look ahead and see where we're at and what streets and stuff, but it's hard to remember all that.
It really is.
I could see like you just get lost easily.
Yep. And I did love that imagery of her waking up and seeing those cyber attack alerts on her phone. That was a great scene for me. Again, just love those.
It looked like one that we done.
I know, it totally did, huh? I did find it really interesting at one point when the panic starts to set in. Julia Roberts starts to names
great stuff.
Yeah, she's like, is there enough batteries and Tylenol and food and a generator and one of those hand crank radios and a straw that makes it safe to drink dirty water? Like she's going over stuff.
I know. I thought it was weird. Somebody that didn't pay attention and was like, oh, there's a Starbucks. And then she's all of a sudden goes to like really good details of prepping. I'm like, oh, but at least she did.
Yeah.
Name him.
That's what I thought too. I'm like, well.
And they even thought to fill the bathtub, which is a pretty unusual thing.
Exactly. Yeah. That's another thing. It's like, oh yeah, at least they filled the bathtub up. They thought about water. Again, I hope that those are things that rub off on a lot of people that don't think about this ever.
Yeah.
Right.
I hope so too. And that was the one thing I did like is that some of those little things, hopefully it wakes people up to like, I probably should look into some of this more.
And then we talk about Kevin Bacon's character, right? He was really, really cautious as a prepper. And the other two guys, they're just not sure why he's acting like that. And I thought that was kind of an interesting thing, an interesting interaction because It's like they've never even considered this situation. Like, what would other people do who are prepared?
True.
And he's like, he's like, I'm here for my family and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what you would expect to happen.
Yeah. But those guys have never even considered it.
No.
Right?
No. So it's like, what is going on? You're not going to help? You know me.
Yeah.
Like, how are you not going to do this? Like,
yeah.
He knew the severity of it. He's just like, I'm not giving up anything.
Yep.
Because I don't know how long this is going to go on.
So I thought that was actually a pretty accurate portrayal of how somebody like that would probably react in that situation. Like Kevin Bacon, I think that's what a normal prepper type dude would probably do. Like, hey man, no.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of like, at first I was like, well, if he knew about building that other bunker, why didn't he go there? But he's been preparing his own stuff. It's like, he has his own thing set up because he would assume that's locked up and they're not going to let him in.
Yep,
just like he's acting.
Exactly.
So I thought it was kind of cool that he's like protecting his own he didn't go there.
Exactly. This is one thing that Ethan Hawke's character that drove me absolutely insane was the fact that he's wearing flip-flops in the entire movie.
I didn't realize that.
Dude,
so stupid.
It drove me nuts. I'm like, I can't imagine being in a situation that they're in.
Might need to run or walk somewhere.
Yeah. Just running around in flip-flops everywhere. Like your toes exposed. I just don't like it. I hate being in flip-flops.
Sticky gummy ticks out there.
Yeah, exactly. Ugh, don't like that. But I just feel like, man, put on some freaking shoes. What if you have to run? What if you have to fight? What if you have to do anything? Flip-flops are like the worst.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I didn't even realize that.
But it drove me insane. And
he was really, he seemed more like he's just so clueless that he didn't even like dress to be prepared.
Didn't have any idea what to do. And I really did think that was good. And his character has this meltdown as the other two guys are pointing guns at each other, right?
Which he did awesome.
Yeah, man.
Because he's just like, my son is sick and I don't know what to do.
And it's just funny because somebody pointed out online, like the head of the family, his name is Clay, and that was Ethan Hawke's character. Clay is also an earthy material that can be molded into any shape while wet. While our man Clay has been molded by modern society to be weak, panicky, and utterly useless when faced with a crisis. At one point he says this, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do right now. I can barely do anything without my cell phone and GPS. I'm a useless man. Dude, you felt it though. Like you felt his desperation. Like, you would feel that way.
There's going to be, like, there's a lot that, I mean,
so
even in, I feel like I'd be that way too in some ways,
Right, yeah. Like, I just felt like that was a huge eye-opener, hopefully for a lot of people that, like, get in that situation. That's how, like, 90% of men are going to be because they've never considered anything, outside of their normal everyday lives. I just thought it was interesting.
I did too.
And then like he's trying to get these meds and he's like, here's $1,000. Give me your freaking medication, right?
Yeah.
And so he finally does get him to give that to him. And I just thought this was a hilarious thing. And then he's sitting and Kevin Bacon's sitting on the thing and he's counting his money and he's like, we're bound to move to a barter system at some point. And then Ethan Hawke under his breath is like, it's still cash, so it's not really a barter system.
I never caught that.
Oh gosh, dude, I was laughing so hard, but it's true. I just thought that was kind of a funny interaction there.
I did like that it showed that like cash on hand will have value early on, or for maybe even the whole time.
And they talked about that.
Yeah,
so
I was like, that's a great prepper point that was put out there. It's like you need to have cash on hand because that's the only way you're going to pay for anything.
Exactly.
At first.
Yeah. So it was great that he had that, obviously. And then GH, he starts talking about this 3-stage attack that I thought was really interesting. Stage 1, disable communication and transportation. Stage 2, synchronized chaos, where there is no clear enemy. They dropped different types of pamphlets around the United States to confuse people. And then stage 3,
just let it happen. Like it does its work.
Let them eat each other up. Civil war, collapse. So, boy, that's
which we talked about that with EMP and everything. It's just like you don't have to do the rest. That's the thing is like, and Tani and my wife and I were talking about that. It's like war, like modern day war is not going to be like it was in the past.
No,
you're going to have bombers and paratroopers, maybe some, but for the most part, it's going to be like a self implosion.
It's going to
just like let it all Let people just tear themselves apart.
And you can see that, like the mistrust of everybody that you meet and that kind of thing. That would be a big deal, right?
Yep.
I did love when it finally got into the bunker and it was showing their comm system in there.
Yeah.
And it was typing out some stuff that I thought was interesting. White House and major cities under attack. It said there, and then it said elevated radiation levels detected.
I'm still trying to think of what that communication system would have been because he tried his satellite phone.
Yeah, I don't know.
The other thing. I was like, it just wasn't able to fit in the movie of him but I would keep that satellite phone on me the whole time. It's like, you never know.
You never know when it might come back.
It's like, even though it wasn't working at that point, maybe something comes back online and you can use it. But
yeah, but anyways, those were some really interesting things about it that kind of came back to prepper type points that I liked.
Yeah.
You know.
And the other, EMP's probably been one of the bigger focus of total takedown of the grid and all that stuff. But it shows you in this just how much a cyber attack could do.
Yeah.
Because our whole system is operated on automated systems and, it's all computer run with some people behind it. You know, there's not people behind every part of it. So it's like, once you start messing up that system, you can really take a ton down.
Yeah.
The Tesla cars were pretty cool because it's like they have those automated driving cars that we're getting more and more of. Yeah. It's like if that system was hacked, I actually was reading into that a little bit beyond that. And a lot are that's a huge system that could be hacked, but to individually every car, it probably wouldn't fully be attacked. But
Elon Musk didn't like it. Let's just say
that's exactly what happened. Part of the Illuminati. And then taking down the power grid's probably the easiest part of it. Obviously,
yeah, man.
We would lose power most likely first off in a lot of these scenarios. So it's like, and that charging your devices and GPS and all that. I did like the scene showing the satellite just kind of disconnect, up in space.
You're like, oh crap!
So it's like once it doesn't have communication from below, it's just gonna float around.
Yep.
I did feel the planes. And even the boats were a little overdone because I'm just it's going to screw up the GPS and their flight, but it's not none of those planes are pilotless.
Yeah, and I thought about that.
But I think mid-air collisions could happen and airport confusion where they can't land and crash because they're out of fuel. But it was nose diving. It's maybe it's out of fuel.
I wondered if it was some sort of a hack where they were actually getting into the navigation systems and navigating them to a certain place.
Now that makes a little more sense.
You know what I mean? That's the only thing I could come up with.
Because I was it seemed, it was dramatic and it made you well, that was intense. Because that scene was pretty cool.
It was,
when he gets behind the door and all the water splashes like that.
For sure.
But I don't think it would really happen.
Yeah.
And then that Airbnb, man, I just never thought much about doing that. One thing, I know it's no different really than a hotel. Yeah. And I don't know why I'd feel more comfortable in a hotel. I think Airbnbs are a little weird to me. Mm-hmm. Just because it's somebody's home. I've thought about that before. I was like, somebody needs this place at some point. A hotel can be abandoned. It's there's a bunch of rooms to sleep in that somebody else doesn't need necessarily. An Airbnb is different. I mean, it's someone renting out their space. If there's an emergency, they're going to come right home.
That's the whole thing. Is something I've never really even considered. But you would have to. I mean, people are going to consider it now, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, anybody that has an Airbnb is like, shh.
Yeah, I know.
Well, this movie just heard it for us.
I mean, I think in that where he's like, oh, you don't need to contact them. I'll give you a refund on half of this, right? I'd just be like, screw you. Give them a bad review. I don't care. Leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I think...
I know he was super cooperative for it. He's like, I know this is inconvenient, but in that scenario, I'd be like, get out.
You're gone. See
it's
we're
my done.
House. I own it.
Yeah.
You have to leave.
He was super generous.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and with that Airbnb, it just showed a lot about your limitations and what could happen, and you could be just toast. Even I think about unloading all of your groceries when you get to that place into that house, and then all of a sudden you got to give it all up. So it's kind of an interesting.
Well,
thing.
and then what should you do in that situation? You probably need to consider. Some sort of a travel prepping plan.
Yeah, you do.
Right? Like EDC, bug out bag. Do you have information about the local layout of roads? That's one of the things is they had no idea where they were.
Yeah.
No idea how to get anywhere.
Yeah. He went into town and did he even make it to town?
He was lost.
Yeah.
You know, and then when they tried to leave for New Jersey, he didn't even know how to get back the way they came.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, just the way that you came, drive that way.
Yeah.
You know, and he was just
the whole point of them like going through the chaos to New Jersey. I was like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a great idea.
Like, I understand they're trying to get to someone they know and to a house and a home, but it's like, look what's going on. Like, you're gonna drive to death, basically.
And then when the owners show up kind of at night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, get a bat or something. And he doesn't even have a bat. He grabs this like thing off the table that's like some random like vase or something, you know? It's something like to consider. Do you take something with you in those situations?
Right.
That a self-defense weapon, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah. I've thought about, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about like how we would prepare, but But yeah, I've thought about that a little bit with Airbnbs. That's why I've never really been super comfortable. Yeah. Not to this extent of thinking like, what if they come back? I've never felt. I've always felt like I was going to get scammed, or they were going to claim that I broke something in their house, and so
yeah, it's tough.
And then just that unsettling thought of the Havana syndrome, the like attack with these weapons that we don't know anything about that have been they've basically been developed and studied and tested in small amounts on people that these other countries might use. Like that to me was probably the most disturbing thing. I was just like using a weapon that you don't even know what's doing, and then your kid's teeth all start falling out.
And here's the thing too, like as someone who wants to be more prepared, just being aware of it is a huge advantage, because at least like Kevin Bacon's like, oh yeah, this is a thing that happened in Cuba. Yeah. So at least he had some sort of frame of reference for what it could be. Yeah. Right? True. The other people were just like, I don't know. Was it Satan screaming from hell? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, they had no idea. Yeah. So just understanding that, I think, is a big advantage. Like, some of the weird stuff that's going on around the world, like the things that we talk about in Mad Mad Worlds, just understanding that, I think, is an advantage if it ever does become something that's used in this way. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
And that was another thing that made me like completely terrified, is I'm like, it's like in this scenario and my kid's teeth fall out and I have to see a dentist in this scenario. You know how much they'd take from you?
Oh my gosh. You're like, well, this kid's mine now. I'll put his teeth in, but I own him. You know what I mean?
You're all part of my plan now. Guess what?
You guys are all going to stay here.
It's going to be about 5 years of paying it off by scavenging the town for me.
Yeah, you're going to be pounding out crowns with hammers in the back room.
The more teeth you collect, how many teeth you got? You just have to give him a bag of like teeth.
Go find the dead people and bring me teeth.
I was like, that's gonna cost a lot. It's gonna be the whole amount of all of your preps is gonna go to that dentist.
$1,000 for some pills is bad. You wait till you gotta get.
Wait until you gotta see the dentist that's gonna pull that one snaggle tooth that's left.
Exactly.
Oh man. And the other thing too, this movie showed that I had never really thought of too is he encounters someone in need, and she speaks Spanish only, and she's just like hysterical, and she's talking super fast. That's the other thing, is like sometimes when they talk really slow, you can kind of get the gist of like what they're and she was just in panic mode. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to help her. Yeah. And so he leaves her. Yeah. And I liked that it showed like the little internal struggle he had with that. He felt guilty. Yeah. He's like, he didn't want to tell anybody at first, and then he's just like, I left this lady out there. And so like, and I think it's from me playing like Red Dead Redemption and stuff, where there's like those setups. Yeah, yeah. That was the first thing I thought when he was pulling him. She's like, yeah. I'm like, she's setting him up. Like, as soon as he stops, somebody's gonna come around and pull him out of the car. Yeah. And so, what do you do? Like, do you stop? Do you take the risk, especially by yourself? I wouldn't.
Well, that's a whole piece of it too. Like, I really don't think he should be going to town by himself with little to no plan.
Yeah. Like, knowing that he's dumb and can't do anything without his phone, he's like, I'm gonna go in town, see what's going on.
I'm gonna try to find a paper. Like, who sells papers anymore? Anyways, where are you gonna find one in a little town? This is probably like a weekly paper that they put out online. I mean, you know what I mean? It just feels like so unplanned, and it makes sense because of who he was in the film. But like, that's a thing. Think about having a plan. Like, okay, at least when
was that the time thing that she said in an hour?
That was the.
So or was that something different?
That was GH.
That's right.
And his daughter. Like, I'll be back in an hour.
That's right. That's right. He said that to her.
They set timers on their phone. I'm like, okay, at least you gave some sort of parameters of what was going to happen. But he was just like, I'm going to go to the
I'm going to see the red box.
Yeah.
Get something to watch.
I don't know what I'm going to do. I might be back
well,
later.
he didn't even have a plan.
No.
He's just going to town.
Just going to town. He didn't even know where town
well,
was.
his wife, I'd get away from that too.
Yeah, I don't get.
He's like, I'm going to go for a long drive. Probably not going to come back.
I don't know if I'll come back or not.
Yeah. But that part, there really wasn't any plan behind it. He's super dumb. And then, I think you put in here about that final bunker scene that someone who probably had a bunker ready, like, they didn't ever show up or anything.
No. And that's I thought this was an interesting lesson on kind of two fronts. Understand who might be prepping to that level so that you might be able to take advantage of it in SHT.
That was the dentist.
That was the dentist.
Certain.
He was just gone to his other bunker.
He was just warlording out in town.
He had a bunker under...
All your teeth falling out, come to me.
The Empire State Building probably as well. But also, as much as you'd like to stay gray man, it ain't easy, and somebody usually knows.
That's so true.
They knew that this bunker was
and
here.
he was trying to be all secret. Didn't he say that? Like Kevin Bacon had said he'd been all.
And but I talked to a contractor, and I know, you know what I mean? So it's a lesson that, like, it's going to be pretty tough.
Go check that out. Yeah, it's so true.
You know what I mean?
You can't, that's a good point. Like, you really can't keep all of that under wraps. So.
Exactly. It's very,
especially
very hard.
if you're building something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
Someone knows.
You're a dentist. We know you got a bunker out there. Guys,
right?
And he's got a little dentist chair down in there. You know what I mean?
For the stadium seating is his dentist chairs.
Yeah, exactly. Laughing gas stations. I don't know.
That'd be awesome
for sure. But let's take just a minute and kind of war game this out. How would we handle this plot in real life if it was us, right? And I don't know. What do you say other than, like, I would hope I would have a bit more handle on what was happening in the world than Ethan Hawke did. Like, he just had no idea what was happening or going on. Kevin Bacon knew a little bit. Mahershala Ali kind of knew what was going on. At least they had some information here. So understand the state of the world in some way, shape, or form is a good plus.
Yeah.
In all of life, I think, right?
Yeah.
I would have brought some basic preps on this vacation, other than just a book and some flip-flops and a towel, right? And I would hopefully have made a plan with my family, routes, understand where the town is, have a way to get more information, like just a general layout of where you are and how to get places.
Yeah.
That would have helped the situation.
It's pretty easy to overlook that stuff. I was just thinking back of, like, those trips I've made. I'm like... knowing and doing what I do, I'm like, I've overlooked a lot of those details. I could have been in a really bad, situation
At
pretty
least
quick.
think about, maybe downloading some maps, a hard map, or having a hard map, whatever.
Right. Yeah, because their phones and stuff still worked. They just didn't have cell service and stuff. But you have all that stuff in there.
Yeah, if they could have downloaded it, at least they would have had it then, right?
That's technology. You don't want to deal with that.
Use it.
Carve it in a piece of wood, put it in your pocket.
I'll carve it in my brain. I don't need that. Keep it up there. My brain box.
Yeah, in the brain box.
I think I probably would have just done my best to hunker down in that Airbnb throughout this whole thing.
That's probably your best. Yeah. Hoping no one comes and kicks you out.
Yeah, that's what I just would have blocked off doors, windows.
Even then, you're like, that's unfortunate for you.
I know, exactly. But I don't know,
You would. You'd probably, I know we would probably give it up, but it's like, if you could or, negotiate, be like, can we stay here for a time?
Yep.
That's what I would do too. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, like, dealing with the chaos and confusion in society, and I know that the movie really wanted to portray that, like, show that these people were, like, so confused about what was going on.
Yeah. And
it was getting worse. And they were getting more unclear on plans and stuff like that. And they're starting to get, like, irritated with, like, each other. And it just makes it unsettling for, like, that GH guy was freaking amazing to, like, let him stay knowing they're starting to get panicky.
Especially with the pressure from his daughter. And
his daughter was like, get him out of here.
Yeah.
And then feeling some of that racism even.
Yep.
But yeah, the, like, things that I would do too different is... like, and thinking about this now, obviously easy to say.
Yeah, sure.
Because
that's the whole point.
We just watched it happen.
Yeah.
But, and I like, usually when we go somewhere, you kind of load up on groceries so you don't have to eat out all the time.
Yeah.
I'd keep him in that rental car, because you bring him in somewhere that you may be kicked out of or lose or have to bug out from. The car is most likely to be when you're away from home and stuff, the thing that's at least it's shelter, at least there's food and water inside it in the trunk or something like that. That's probably where I would keep most of my stuff, even being in the Airbnb.
Sure.
And just bring some of the stuff in it a little at a time. That's kind of what we did do when we were in San Francisco. It was just so expensive there that, but I didn't ever bring it all in because we were jumping different
hotels,
neighborhoods.
Yes.
We were doing different hotels, so it was a pain in the butt to bring it in and back. So keeping it in the vehicle, someone's not going to come from Fox Rentals or or any of those and try to reclaim the car. And then the other thing was being completely unprepared to navigate, like you were saying. It's I would probably study a bit more, know the area best if you weren't able to navigate by your phone, because that's what I rely on 100%.
I do too, man.
So it's if you don't have that GPS, you can download a lot of them onto your phone and just be able to scroll in on the streets and stuff like that. That is definitely something I would do.
But I don't think it's that hard of a thing.
Offline.
It's not that hard of a thing to just know, okay, how do I get to the middle of town? How do I get back to my place that I'm staying?
Yeah.
That should be something you should be able to commit to
You
memory
should.
in some way, shape, or form.
A town to get food and come back to the place you're staying, pretty much anybody would know that.
I would hope so. Yeah.
And so, I mean, and just on that, the car kit and the bug about it, if you don't have your own car and you're renting, just stock it up. And then if you have your own, usually when I travel, I throw in a freaking bug out bag.
Yeah,
my
exactly.
wife loves that.
Yeah,
it's
we're
already full of all of the other bags and stuff. It's just throw a bug out bag in there. It's ugh, huge bag.
But you feel so much better.
You do. It's all in there.
Yeah.
So, but, and then, rare instances where a communication radio would be a bigger issue. It's that's the thing is there was no government information. They couldn't receive any information what was going on. So they were just completely out of it. I'd still try and listen, and I still recommend the radios and stuff, because at some point some messages are going to get through, but you also need to be able to interpret those. It's maybe someone else took control of radio and communication. So I don't know. It's just interesting to think of being away from everything in this scenario. That would be so tough. It's kind of scary to think.
Yeah, the communication in the radio is such a big deal. It's funny because I just got a shortwave radio from American Reserves, and I was playing around with it. It's really interesting. I've never really used one that much, but I was picking up stuff from Tennessee. I was picking up stuff from a long ways away, and I was just trying to figure it out. But something like that is a great way to maybe find some information from somewhere else, right? To know some sort of info.
Do you know? On the Apple phones, they have that little walkie-talkie feature. Does that work without internet?
I
don't think it uses a cell signal. I think it uses proximity. I think it's Bluetooth.
How you'd have to be super close then, right?
I don't know. I was just curious about that, because there were going on trips and carrying walkie-talkies. You don't want to look like psycho, but at the same time, that would be your backup system. It's if you went into town and had a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, like a two-way or a GMRS type thing. Yep. That'd be great.
So definitely a lot to think about.
There is.
And that's what you hope that this movie opened up a lot more people's eyes, because, again, you would hope if you're in that scenario that someone that's been prepared would kind of take you in and help you, or at least give you a chance to get back to your stuff or something.
Right, yeah. I thought it was an interesting movie. Again, it wasn't fantastic. I didn't think it was horrible. There's a lot of people that just hated it, absolutely hated it. I get it, but I did think there's some interesting stuff to unpack as someone who wants to be more prepared.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So that's why I thought it was interesting. I'd love to hear your guys' take on it. Hit us up on social media or something when this gets released, and maybe we'll put out a post and say,
learn Spanish.
Yeah,
you gotta do that. That's the whole.
I took some Spanish in high school, and so I was getting every third or fourth word.
That's what I was saying. If when they're in panic mode and speaking super fast, it's really hard. So, but man, you never think about the communication barrier would be with another person that doesn't speak. It's crazy how many people that I see at work that don't speak any English, and they'll come in by themselves, and I'm like, geez, this is hard.
Tough. Yeah, that's rough. Anyways, that's it. That's our first apocalyptic movie hour and the film Leave the World Behind. right?
Hopefully ruined it for you.
Hopefully.
You don't even have to see it now.
No, you don't have to. Guys, today's podcast is brought to you by TacPack, the only tactical subscription box with useful professional grade stuff inside. Use our code Casual Preppers and get a free $70 machine-made part from Next Level Armament. If you would have had a TacPack in this movie, probably would have been doing better than all of these guys.
You
right?
put something together.
Plus, you throw together an AR real quick.
Or look like an AR.
You at least look like
There's
one.
no rifle, but you have all the parts
You have
for it.
every part.
Build a little.
Exactly. Well, anything else on that, Cam?
No.
Okay.
Stay survived out there.
Stay survived.